She didn't slam the door. She didn't yell. She just left a note on the counter that said, "You make me feel seen, but not trusted." I must have read that line 100 times before I realized she was right. I loved her so much that I suffocated her. But that's not where it started. It started with a coffee, a smile, and me thinking I could handle real love. I used to overthink everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. What I said. What I didn't say. The way someone looked at me. The way someone didn't. I convinced myself it was just me being cautious, that I was self-aware, emotionally intelligent, thoughtful. But that's the lie overthinkers tell themselves. The truth? I wasn't careful. I was scared. Scared of being misunderstood. Scared of saying too much. Scared of not being enough. And the funny thing about fear is, it doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like control. Like analyzing every text message, rereading every word, wondering if that emoji meant what you think it did. It sounds ridiculous now, but at the time, it felt like survival. The worst of it started when I met Mia. She wasn't the type of person you just meet, she was the kind that happens to you. We met at a small coffee shop downtown, the kind with handwritten menus and a guitar sitting in the corner that no one ever plays. I was waiting for a friend who was late, and she sat across from me, reading some poetry book. She looked up and smiled when I accidentally knocked over my coffee. I remember she laughed, that soft, unbothered kind of laugh that makes you feel like everything embarrassing you do is somehow okay. We started talking, and it was easy. Effortless. For someone like me, whose brain usually runs like a crime scene investigation, that was rare. She told me about her art, her family, her love for old movies. I told her about my job, my bad luck with cooking, and my borderline obsession with fixing things that weren't broken. She said, "You sound like someone who doesn't like surprises." I laughed and said, "I like them, as long as I can plan for them." She smiled, that knowing smile, and said, "That's not how surprises work." I should have known then. The first few months were perfect, or at least, that's how they should have been. We went on long drives with no destination. Watched movies until 3 a.m. Cooked together even though we were both terrible at it. She'd dance barefoot in the kitchen while I pretended to hate it, secretly recording her when she wasn't looking. But even in those moments, there was a quiet war in my head. If she didn't text for an hour, I'd imagine she was losing interest. If she seemed distracted, I'd assume it was me. If she said she was tired, I'd hear, "I'm tired of you." I didn't mean to doubt her, I just didn't know how to trust peace. When you grow up waiting for people to leave, you start mistaking calm for the quiet before the storm. It started small. A question here. A doubt there. A few too many, "Are you okay?" texts in a row. She'd say, "I'm fine." And I'd ask again, because my brain didn't believe fine existed without conditions. Then one night, we were sitting on the couch watching some show neither of us were really paying attention to, and she said it. "You know, sometimes it feels like I'm always defending myself, and I don't even know what for." Her voice wasn't angry. It was tired. I wanted to argue. To explain that I just cared too much. That I just didn't want to lose her. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. What I was doing wasn't caring, it was clinging. She started pulling back after that. Not all at once, but slowly, like sunlight fading behind clouds. The texts got shorter. The laughter less frequent. The silences longer. And the longer the silence lasted, the louder my thoughts became. One night, she stayed over, but it felt different. Distant. She sat at the edge of the bed, scrolling on her phone, her face lit up by that cold blue light. I asked, "Are we okay?" She sighed, that kind of sigh that sounds like it's been sitting in someone's chest for a long time. "I don't know," she said quietly. "I just feel like I can't breathe anymore." She didn't mean it literally, but I felt it like a punch. She went to sleep. I didn't. I just stared at the ceiling, watching the shadows shift as the night moved on. By morning, she was gone. She left a note on the counter. It said, "You make me feel seen, but not trusted. I wish you'd stop trying to read my mind long enough to actually hear me." And that was it. No argument. No final words. Just an ending that didn't feel like one. I wish I could say I moved on gracefully, but I didn't. I spiraled. Hard. I went through every picture, every message, every memory, trying to find the exact moment I lost her. I'd stare at old photos for hours. She was always smiling big, genuine smiles. And I looked like a man waiting for something bad to happen. Like I couldn't even let happiness exist without dissecting it. That realization hit harder than anything she could have said. I didn't lose her because I wasn't enough. I lost her because I never believed I was. The weeks after that were quiet. Too quiet. Overthinking doesn't stop when the person leaves, it just changes targets. I started replaying myself. The way I reacted. The things I said. The times I could have just let her be instead of interrogating her calm. It's like my brain didn't know how to stop running simulations of regret. Then one morning, I woke up to her name on my phone. It wasn't a message, just a photo that popped up in memories. We were laughing. She had flour on her face from the time we tried to bake cookies and almost burned the kitchen down. I remember that night, I was so happy, but even then, I remember asking myself, what if she gets tired of this one day? And there it was. Proof that I'd ruined moments as they were happening, not by accident, but by habit. So I sat there, phone in hand, and for the first time in months, I didn't scroll. I didn't analyze. I just looked. And I whispered, "I'm sorry." Not to her. To myself. For always assuming I had to earn love that was already freely given. That day, I wrote a note on my phone. It said, "You don't have to understand everything to let it go. Some things just end. That's their meaning." I didn't send her another message. I didn't beg for closure. I just let the silence sit. And for once, it didn't scare me. It's strange how peace can feel like emptiness when you're not used to it. How stillness feels wrong when your whole life's been noise. But eventually, I started to like it. I started to breathe without dissecting every inhale. I started to trust moments again, even small ones. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not forgetting the noise, but learning to live without needing it. I still think about her sometimes. Not with pain, but with a kind of quiet gratitude. She didn't break me. She just held up a mirror. And I finally saw what I'd been running from all along. It wasn't her leaving that hurt the most. It was realizing I was never really present while she was here. If I could go back and tell that version of me one thing, I'd say, stop waiting for things to go wrong. Some moments are meant to just be. Don't ruin them by trying to understand them. Because love doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it just comes. And if you're lucky, you notice before it's gone.